Section86.com. We're changing the world of podcasting one show at a time.
86 Productions.
Take what you wanna take. Don't leave me here. Lasting leap years ever your fear of the one and only love.
Hello and welcome to Off the Mark, the best podcast providing the most in-depth insight and analysis into the world of professional wrestling. On today's show, we have Aaron, Roger, and Doug to join Andrew as we discuss this month's view from the turnbuckle. Aaron, I think hell's frozen over. What just happened in the news?
Jeff Jarrett is going into the WWE Hall of Fame. So as it is right now, TNA and WWE share, I think it's like 75% of the Hall of Famers right now, with Jeff Jarrett, Sting, Dudley Boys, and a few others. So
can we clarify? TNA and WWE share 75% of TNA's Hall of Famers,
Right.
not the actual WWE Hall of Fame. It's TNA's Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
and how many of them were made by TNA?
Gail Kim and Earl Hebner are the other two that have not been inducted.
Yeah.
But so not Earl Hebner, but so Jeff Jarrett, he is coming back to WWE. Now, Roger, do you find that as a big surprise that he's coming back?
I'm surprised because him and Vince did not end on exactly good terms. When he left in, I want to say 99, he held up the company for, I want to say, maybe $100,000. He wouldn't drop the title to China without getting his money. He was fired on live television by Vince when they bought WCW. So I didn't really expect him to come back until maybe Vince was gone and out of the picture. So that rumors are that Triple H was behind this. So who knows? Maybe Hunter and Jarrett don't really have any beef. But I was a little surprised, especially because he's not like a mega name. This isn't in Tennessee. So I don't know. They didn't have to do it.
Now, Doug, do you think that there's maybe some alternative motives behind his induction, or do you think that it's just they want to put him in the Hall of Fame?
I think there's got to be some kind of alternative motive, whether it's to promote their wellness program or something along those lines, the rehab aspect. I cannot believe, like everybody else said, he left on horrible terms, and he has been their direct competition for a while right now, and he keeps on trying to put out a number two number two wrestling product to WWE, but it is what it is. I mean, is he worthy of being it on just his WWE career? I would say no, but as an overall impact on wrestling, maybe.
I think Doug hit the nail on the head because he's definitely been putting out number twos for a while now.
Oh my gosh. Aaron, have you been saving that one up for a while?
Well, as soon as he said it, I had to.
Exactly.
So I 100% agree with what everyone had said. The one thing about Jarrett in particular is I actually think he has had a Hall of Fame career with everything that he has accomplished there. And while, to Roger's point, it's not Nashville, so it's kind of suspect why they would be doing it. And if WWE only put in the absolute best people right away, then, you would have had a Hall of Fame class of Hogan and Savage and Flair, in one class. And you're not going to do that. Instead, you space them out. Jeff Jarrett, who was a really great IC title holder. And then we also had he held the WCW and then now an NWA title. I assume that they're putting him in, as Doug had mentioned, for the wellness program that they do.
And I know that's first thing I thought of is that, hey, they're doing something with the wellness policy. That's the only way I can think of it, because why would he go in for WWE sponsored rehab and then come out? They're like, oh, by the way, you're going to be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, to me.
Oh, I didn't know he went in for rehab.
Oh yeah, he got out, and then they asked him if he wanted to be in, and then a month later, bam, they announced it. So
he's also married to Kurt Angle's ex-wife, so there could be a connection there too.
Well, that's interesting because who's going to induct Jarrett? I was trying to figure that out. Or is he going to ask Dixie to do it? Is he going to ask Kurt? Which would be kind of weird if Kurt did it. So I'm going to be intrigued on that scenario. But I'm more excited that the Hall of Fame's on Friday night, so then I can skip it. And then I can watch Saturday night's TakeOver. So I'm pretty.
It's also possible that this was a favor to the Harts because he was close to Owen when he died.
Really?
Yeah. No, him and Owen were pretty tight. I think because Jerry Jarrett and Stu Hart were both wrestling promoters back in the day, I think the Jarretts and the Hart are actually close. Don't quote me on that. I read Brett's book, and I think he actually wasn't all that down on Jeff Jarrett. So it's possible that this was kind of another way of them trying to reach out and apologize to Martha for obviously what happened 20 years ago at this point.
Oh gosh, so there's probably like two different alternative motives on here now, possibly, but
You know,
Absolutely.
I hope not. I really hope it's actually for something. I really hope it's because of his Hall of Fame career. He was a great IC title holder, and of course he did drop it to China. So China should be in the Hall of Fame, but that's a different story because you want to be one night with her. Anyways, let's move on to Elimination Chamber. So Doug, your favorite women's wrestler, Alexa Bliss, retained. Curious on your thoughts on it.
I would have given it 3.5 stars out of 5. It was an okay match. I think there could have been a few more spots in it. Storytelling wise, it was decent. I think that Alexa did a great job kind of with her character and the fact that, when she was coming out, it was her, Bailey, and the Boss left. It was a 3-way match for the title, basically, at the end of it. Whereas when you see the men's, I think only one person was eliminated by the last time Elias came out. So storytelling wise, I don't think it set up any future feuds except for Bailey versus the Boss. And then I kind of have a wonder about who's the real heel turn in that aspect, because when Monday night came around, it was Bailey not taking the tag from the Boss, which is kind of a heelish move, if you ask me. So good feud out of that one, but I'm glad that Alexa won, and she does deserve, after everything that she's done. The promo she gave afterwards was really clinical, because you really thought almost that because she was being cheered, she might be going face, and then all of a sudden just quickly turned it into the heel promo that it deserved.
I agree with everything that Doug had said. It was I actually liked the women's match quite a bit. I was kind of surprised. I think I was expecting a whole lot of nothing, and when it came to the end, especially when it was Sasha, Bailey, and Alexa, I actually believe that Sasha or Bailey could have won. They made it kind of believable, and then when you had obviously kind of the turns going on and the double crossing, that made it a little bit better. And Alexa, I think, came out looking really good in this match. The one thing that I'm kind of curious about, though, and Roger, maybe you can speak to it, is I wonder who she is going to be facing at WrestleMania, because they've been talking about Nia Jax, but could they put a different opponent with her, or a multi-woman match for this?
So they could put a multi-woman match. I would never put that past WWE, but it would be a mistake to do so, just because we've seen that way too many times. I mean, last year you had a 6-pack challenge essentially and a fatal 4-way for the women. So they need some one-on-one matches. And Alexa Nia has been teased since she did the fake Batista thumbs down thing. So that match needs to finally happen. The one thing I would say that this chamber lacked, and it was better than men's chamber because it was unpredictable. You had 3 people who could plausibly win, even though maybe it was really only Sasha and Alexa. Is that this probably either should have been a split brand chamber match where you should have had both people going for maybe a number 1 contendership as opposed for the title. Because Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville had no business in this match. They had, almost a less than 1% chance of winning, and they wisely were eliminated early. And Mickie James, she was only there basically to potentially help Alexa. This could have been benefited from having maybe a Becky Lynch. You throw Nia Jax in that. Now you've got a lot of different people who can compete in this. I think the thing that bothers me about this is that why? So Alexa made the point of this. I shouldn't have to be in this chamber match. Well, why shouldn't she have to be in this chamber match? They never really expanded on that. It just seemed like one of those ones where she was whining. So then her promo was really good at the end, but they kind of just announced it. I don't think there was any qualifying matches for the chamber for the women. I think they just threw them in there. So it was one of those things of again, why did no one have to earn a spot in there? And then again, that's why I wanted it to be split brand, because then you have one chamber match for 15 women and you can have people earn it. As far as the WrestleMania match, look, Asuka has no business fighting Alexa. She should go over to SmackDown where she can actually have a real challenge in Charlotte. Whoever Alexa fights at Nia, at WrestleMania, if it's not Nia, it's going to be the 3rd most important women's match in the card. It's potentially one that could get bumped to the pre-show, because it's really, truth be told, if the Rumble winner goes and challenges Charlotte, that's a money match. Ronda Rousey obviously is a money match. This one, I could see the title not being defended at WrestleMania, to be quite honest.
No, I think it'll be defended, but I think because the other issue you're going to have is you have to put Sasha and you have to put Sasha and Bailey in some type of match because they're feuding. That's a WrestleMania match to me, so I want to see that, and I also want to see both titles get defended. But yeah, I think they're going to put one of the titles pre-show and in this case, it's going to have to be Raw, because at least the SmackDown title with Asuka, you do not want to bump that, especially if Asuka's going to beat Charlotte at WrestleMania and potentially Nakamura's going to beat AJ Styles. You want to make sure that those matches are on the main card. So it's a tough decision on this, but you know, I'm kind of, I want to see the angle that they're going with this, because we still have, 6 weeks left before WrestleMania. I really want to know what they're going to do, but I don't even know if I want to talk about the men's, because it was just horrible. Aaron, did you?
Oh no, we need to talk about this.
Okay, fine. It was very, very predictable. I'm pretty sure we all guessed who was going to win, because we got all of our picks right. Aaron?
Actually,
Roger?
Before we say anything, I have a question, Aaron. What, if you remember, what were my odds for Roman Reigns winning this match?
Oh, you gave him like 110% chance, if I remember correctly.
And who won this match?
Oh, Roman Reigns.
And what was this? Because I think your statement perfectly encapsulated what we felt about this chamber. What did you say the moment the chamber ended?
I said, I knew what to expect, and I'm still somehow disappointed.
It's true, right? Like, is there anything, honestly, that you can say that doesn't just fit right with that statement? You knew what was coming.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I had a small, like, kind of thought in my head, like, maybe they might slightly deviate from it. Maybe they'll, like, maybe they're going to do a callback to WrestleMania 31. Maybe Seth wins, and then Roman challenges Seth, and they do a triple threat. Maybe they do that. That could be a way to go about it. And if Brock stays, that's a way to protect Brock. Braun Strowman, theoretically, who eliminated 5. There were 5 of them. That he eliminated. And he obviously lost to a spear, cleanly. So it is what it is. I will say, just to slightly move off of that, the Monday after Elimination Chamber, Roman gave probably the best promo of his life that he's ever given. And that's, he called out Lesnar, and it felt like, well, it was definitely a work promo. It was not a shoot. It felt like they said, look, hey, just go out there and, basically just say these few things. Here are some bullet points. And then you just come up with it, as opposed to like, hey, say this word for word, because a lot of times he goes out there and he looks like a robot when he's speaking. And this, it actually felt like it was a little more passionate. And the fans were like, oh, wait a second. I actually kind of like you right now. Like you actually, did something that I appreciate. I'm still going to boo you, but you did a fairly decent job.
I'll say for once to that WWE actually did something creative in the fact that I believe that this is a work too, not a shoot. What better way to get fans on the side of Roman Reigns than to have Brock Lesnar no show? Especially since everybody did know he was in Las Vegas. So I find that more of a, congratulations WWE, you did something actually creative for once. Because nothing gets wrestling fans more upset than you making fun of wrestling. So great job on their part, but this is a complete work, and hopefully nobody falls for it.
I would say this is the smartest thing they've done with Roman Reigns probably since his super push began. And really, the worst thing I have to say about it is what took them so long. You wanted this guy to be the guy since WrestleMania 31, and for the first time you gave him something he could sink his teeth into. It's obviously fake, like Doug said. Don't be a fool. But I don't understand why they couldn't go, we should have done this a long time ago, because the traditional Roman is at his best when you let him go out there and be himself. He does not play this character very well of being the smiling, I'm the, big dog and I'm the underdog who overcomes. Like, that's not who he is. He didn't get over in the Shield by being that guy. He was silent but violent. And then when you turned him into John Cena with long hair and more tattoos, it was stupid sounding. So good job in the WWE. Took him too long. And unfortunately, the moment that was a cheering for the promo and the idea that Lesnar wasn't there, they went back to the dark match. And guess what? The boos came back. So if you think that somehow this turned around everything and now Roman's going to be beloved, I got another thing coming for you. They just hated the idea of Lesnar not showing up. we still don't love Roman. Like that, nothing about that changes. Had you turned him heel at 31, we probably like him by now. But instead, now you just got it where we hate both Lesnar and Reigns. So what you might end up doing, unfortunately, is having an indifference to the match. Because if we hate both people, we don't care. And there's no Seth Rollins to save us this time.
What if this turns into Goldberg Brock version 1? Where they just hate both guys, even though they know Roman, and they're more ticked because Lesnar's leaving and Roman's staying, so they just boo the crap out of both of them. Because this is going to end the show. There's no way this won't end it. So we could probably just start our after show right then, because we know what's going to happen. No one's going to care. But
so you might not be wrong, but also remember how dead the crowd was last year for Roman Taker because it was 7 hours in. It wouldn't surprise me if Roman Lesnar gets the same lack of a response. Like, the crowd's going to be tired. And again, if you don't have anyone to cheer for because you've spent the entire night cheering for Lesnar, Nakamura, and Styles, and all the other crazy matches we're going to get, I wouldn't be super surprised if this gets a much less reaction than they understand.
Well, and when you think about it too, if you look at all the titles that they have, no matter what, you have the 2 world titles that are going to be defended. And then you're going down the card, and they're definitely doing an IC title. They're definitely going to be doing at least one women's, if not both of them. So when you start looking at that card, just title matches, you're looking at 8 matches right there. And then you have, of course, Ronda Rousey's match, that
John Cena.
match, John Cena's match, which I assume is not going to be for a title. So we're talking probably 12 matches, and obviously the cruiserweight. That one's
205 live. So they're going to have. So they'll be bumped to pre-show.
We're talking 13 matches. Yeah, that's going to be 7-hour-long pay-per-view. So by the time they get to the main event, which Roman will be doing for the 4th year in a row, people are going to be crapping all. I mean, they probably won't even be crapping over. They'll be tired. They'll be exhausted. We were exhausted. I know in Dallas, we had a lot of adrenaline, but
we were also in line for 2 hours, so that's probably more the reason.
At the end, I was just like, I'm ready to go to bed. I'm good. I'm ready for bed.
It became, let's get this over with. I don't even care if he wins. Just hurry up and win. Yeah. It's true. We all said, we're like, you know what?
Right.
We know it's over. Let's just be done with this so we can go home. Which is not how the main event of WrestleMania should be.
That was the moment I got to soak in the fact that I was at WrestleMania and kind of take in the crowd because I really didn't care about the match.
Agreed.
It'd be like, wow, look at that monitor.
But do you guys think that it's going to be a huge surprise when Ellsworth cashes in his Money in the Bank?
Gosh.
It might be a surprise, yeah.
When Carmella cashes it in on Nia Jax or Nia Jax.
No. She's going to cash in on Brock Lesnar.
Oh, gosh.
But it's going to be Ellsworth that runs down and pins him.
That would be hilarious.
James Ellsworth runs down and hits a curb stomp and wins the title, I will lose my mind.
I mean, look, if he's leaving for UFC and they're like, look, you got to put some people over. So we're just going to start you off with James Ellsworth, move on to Zach Gowen. Let's see, Dana Brooke. We'll call her Dana White. They'll just go down the list.
Hey, why'd you have to bring up Dana Brooke? We were going good so far.
I'm sorry.
Hey, so let's talk about odds. The odds of Brock Lesnar being willing to do that job.
0.
I'm going to 0% chance that he's going to take a pinfall from Ellsworth. Just going to go out there. I'll put a lot of money on that.
Like, so are you going to shoot me? Is that what's going to happen? Are you going to inject me with some drugs? Like, how am I losing this match?
He's not even going to make it down to the ring.
He'll run and trip and wipe out. Oh gosh. So does anyone care about Roman Brock 2? Anyone? No.
Well, so there is some slight intrigue in the sense that if you wanted to turn Roman heel, this is your best opportunity to do so. I don't believe they are going to, but this is the only chance you really have. Because once he's not facing Brock, everyone else that he could possibly face outside of moving a guy like Jinder over, it's going to be more beloved than him. Miz is more beloved than him. Any face is more beloved than him. Braun Strowman is way more beloved than him. I'm trying to even think who the top heels are right now. KO and Sammy, way more beloved than him. I mean, there's no one that you can put him against, really, besides Jinder, who the crowd is going to say, I'd rather cheer for Roman. Simply because, and the thing is, and I've said this before, I don't necessarily think it's about purely Roman Reigns. I think the revolt is against the idea of this needing a chosen one to be the same guy over and over and over again. Like they are rejecting the John Cena concept. It's the same problem we had with Cena. We don't hate Cena as much now that he's not in the main event dominating everything all the time. And the moment Roman in 10 years steps back and becomes more of a mid-card guy doing IC challenges, Andy will be on here talking about how we really appreciate how good of a worker Roman is. And we'll be talking about how it's nice that he's in the mid-card as opposed to the other guy who's winning 45-minute Iron Man matches. But right now, Roman Reigns represents everything we dislike about the WWE and their idea of no matter what the fans say, we're going to push the guy we want. So until they change that formula, you have to hope for a heel turn.
Well, that's an interesting point. I don't think I would say, man, Roman's a really good worker. But I will say, I did say that about John Cena, though. At least John Cena has improved his ring work. It's not just this; it's still the same crap, but he's added a couple things to his arsenal. But Aaron, what are your thoughts? I mean, I guess I'm more I'm interested in what you guys have to say about this, because to me, I could care less. In fact, I believe that this will go on, and then they're going to put AJ Nakamura, because that match will have to be the last match of the night. I think that'll be the true main event.
No.
It will be I think that'll be the true main event, dude.
And there's no way that, it'll be our main event. That is going to be a 5-star match.
So you're going to say that they're going to put Ronda or you're going to say that's the main?
Andy, there's a better chance of AJ Lee having come back to win the Rumble than there is of AJ Nakamura being the main event.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
The main event.
AJ Nakamura, to be honest, anything less than like a 4.5-star match, I'll be disappointed with. It will be match of the night for sure, but there's no chance that's going on last. Yes, it is the main event. It's the co-main event that's going to be on hour 3 as opposed to hour 6. That's the thing. And come on, let's be honest here. That's how they're booking that crap.
That's the true halftime show.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Look, WrestleMania, in my opinion, 4 to 5 hours. That's what I would do because that's supposed to be the grand show. I think between 4 and 5 hours is fine, and that's including a pre-show match. I'm saying you do not, because when I think about when we had gone there, I remember looking at my phone going like, I'm ready. Like when Rock came out and did the whole thing, I was like, I'm ready. Come on, guys. And I can only imagine being in those crowds, and especially if it's an open arena, and it's just like all of a sudden it's starting to get cold and you're like, I think I'm ready, I'm good. I'm pretty good, guys, and that's the problem, I think, when you have these long shows. But I don't want to dive too deep into that because I will go on nothing but
there's a rabbit hole we could go under, like who's Randy Orton going to face? Yes. Who's Bray Wyatt really going to face? We can go down that rabbit hole, but we won't do it this week. We'll have to save that for another time.
The IC title. Now, this is, of course, one of the most prestigious championships in all WWE and all of wrestling. And it looks like they're going to be doing a multi-man match for this. Originally, it was rumored it was going to be Braun versus Miz, but right now it's looking like Finn and Seth are, staking claim to that. And there's rumor it's going to be a five-way, fatal five-way, including Elias and Braun into that mix. Doug, in your estimation, is this the right way to go for the IC title? Should they do a fatal five-way for this title?
Put it on a ladder and I'll say yes.
So you want to see Braun in a ladder match, huh?
I think that'd actually be interesting because that kind of, evens the playing field if everybody else has a ladder except for Braun.
You could say that he has like one of the little people.
You give him the hornswoggle ladder.
Exactly. Yeah, Doug, I think you're right. Make it a ladder match. I would be more interested in it. I do agree. I think this is the match you could do it with. And plus, Elias, I think he's really good in the ring. I think Miz is, of course, one of the best heels out there right now. By the way, in the Elimination Chamber match, I like what the Miz did to Roman when he did the Roman's punch thing to him. And he laughed at it. I thought I couldn't stop laughing after I saw that. That was like the highlight of my night when that happened. But yeah, so that's going to be a really good idea. I think they'll make it a 4-way. I don't think you'll have Braun in it though. I think they're going to put Braun on something else.
I will say, actually, Elias has really grown on me, and so like adding him to the match, I think is probably a good thing. Roger, do you think that Braun should be in this match? Do you think he should be in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal? Should he do something else? What would you do with Braun?
I would actually have Braun being Ronda Rousey's partner, personally speaking, because I think Braun Strowman is your next big star, and so I want him to have mainstream exposure. And Ronda Rousey is going to get you your mainstream exposure. So if I was Kurt Angle, I would say, you know what? I'm not going to be her partner. I'm going to have Braun Strowman be her partner because Triple H and Braun still had that issue from Survivor Series. It's going to make Braun one of your big time faces. Oh, and by chance, if you ever did, take your head out of your butt, you could turn Roman heel and you have the next big thing in Braun Strowman right there to take his spot as the number one guy. But I don't have a problem with Braun going for the IC title because he's never won a singles title. There is one person that I do have a slight problem with in this match, and it's Seth Rollins. And it's not because he won't put on a fantastic match. It's that Seth Rollins was the guy. Like, not just a world heavyweight champion. He was the man. He cashed in the greatest cash in Money Make history, the heist of the century. He walked out of the main event as the champion. And for about 6 months, he was the focus of the show. He shouldn't have an interest in the Intercontinental Championship to me. His only sole purpose should be to be the world heavyweight champion again, because as much as we like the IC title, it is a stepping stone championship. It is not a championship that means that it's not like the old WCW championship where if you were the US champion, you were the number one contender to the title. The IC championship at best means you're the third best guy in the company, assuming Brock Lesnar is the champion, and assuming Undertaker's retired, and assuming John Cena's not around, because all those people are immediately elevated above the IC championship. So to me, I would rather have Rollins be in a higher profile match. I wouldn't even mind Seth Rollins versus Braun Strowman in a separate match because those are two high profile guys going at it. And I think Rollins could have a really good match with Braun. So that's the only thing that bothers me for this. The rest of them, I don't mind. Yeah, Finn had that one-day title run, and that's cool. But the Universal Championship, very different. He wasn't the guy. The show wasn't built around him, things like that. Elias, I agree with Aaron. He's grown on me. His character sucked in NXT, but man, it works very well in the main roster. It's perfect. And Miz, I don't have to say anything else about Miz. He's been the most, underrated superstar for the last 2 to 3 years. It's just, especially after watching Rollins go in that gauntlet match for 65 minutes, I was like, oh yeah, this is the guy that probably should be in Roman's spot. Like this is a guy who should be competing in the main event. So I just feel like it's beneath him right now. When Shawn Michaels moved up to the main event, he didn't come back down to the IC championship. When Bret Hart moved up, he didn't come down. Austin never went back for the IC title. I think there's a certain point where you're above the championship and you should stay above the championship. And that's where I feel Rollins should be.
Well, Rollins could actually do decent if he was Ronda's partner, though, when you think about it, and he could say, he can also say that I was a better WWE champion than Trips was. You can go into that whole spiel and like how they still have beef against each other. But if Rollins was there, anything that Ronda was doing wrong, he could at least tell her like, hey, do this instead, opposed to Triple H, who, yeah, he's good at that. But I think Rollins can help her out more in the ring, especially when she's wrestling Stephanie. I'm using that in quotes. But yeah, I think that's what we'd have to do here. And that's why and then at least my thought process then is that Seth is still at the main event and not at the IC level. So that's why I hope they do that. But Braun has to wrestle someone. He has to be in some type of match. I think if he goes in the Andre the Giant Battle Royale, I think that's a step, downgrade for him. I think he's going back to Windows ME if he does that, and I don't think we want that.
Nobody wants Windows ME.
No one wants it. No one wants Windows ME ever. I had it. I know. But that's my at least thought process. I see title Miz. And you know what the thing is? I think I bashed the fact that Miz was in the main event person at one point, and I never looked at him in a different way. I've tried that with Roman, it doesn't work. But with Miz, he's such a good heel, and then when he was put there, he was just very underrated when he was a champion.
Well, the Miz from 2011 is not the same Miz that we're getting now. He has significantly improved his character work, his work rate. The guy who was champion at 27 should not have been in that spot. That should have been CM Punk, hands down. This Miz is worthy of being in a main event, and we would have no problem with that. At the time, Miz wasn't there yet. I mean, his matches were still subpar. His character work was generic. He was still more of the Hollywood wannabe real worlder. Like, this Miz is way better. So I don't think you were wrong in that. Whereas like Roman hasn't really gotten much better in 4 years, despite what some people like to tell you on Reddit. His ring work is about the same. When he gets great opponents, he can put on good matches. When he gets meh opponents, he puts on meh matches. For the most part, he's overbooked and overpowered. He's better when he loses sometimes. It is what it is.
Yeah, I was trying to think of what anyone else they could put in that match, with Ronda. And realistically, I was thinking AJ Styles, but that won't ever happen. But with this whole thing, though, with the IC title picture, there's so many ways they can go with it. They can make maybe a surprise with Jeff Hardy, but I still think that's a weird thing because he was the world heavyweight champion at one point.
He's got something else going on too. But to move off the IC title, though, we also have the tag titles, and I was thinking about it today. I mean, do we have any real tag teams on Raw? Because I can't really think of any.
Revival.
We got Revival. We got the Club.
Yeah,
they're not using. Yeah, they're not using them though. I mean, they're squandering the talent. So, in your opinion, Andy, do they deserve to have a match at WrestleMania?
No.
Like, would you have a match for the bar?
Okay. Here's my thought process on this. If they were to do something where, you'd almost have to have some way of having the club like cheat their way. And if you said, hey, they're going to win the titles, that's fine. I don't think they'll put it on the main card. I think they'll put it on the pre-show. I think they'll put a women's match on the pre-show, and they'll probably put the 205 Live match, which I think is wrong to do for the new champion. It should be on the main card, but they're going to end up doing that. And actually, I'm going to call it right now, and I know it's going to make you guys mad. They're going to do most likely a 3-hour pre-show. I'm just going to say it now. I'm not happy about it, but I'm pretty sure they're going to do that. And I think
why would it make us mad? We don't watch that.
Yeah.
Oh, good point. All right. So I'm going to be really mad when they start airing it at 3:00 Central Time, and then the show doesn't get over with until 11:15. So that's going to make the crowd a little mad about that. And I don't know, dude. The Raw tag titles. I mean, it's great.
So
but let's just move. Let's just move.
No.
I think that we should just move on. Put them in the Andre the Giant Battle Royale. Put them in that. And then say that they're defending it the following night. You could do that as well. Then bring some tag team in and do it at that point.
Hold on a second. So while I think we all agree that the tag team title shouldn't be defended, I don't necessarily think that means the bar shouldn't have a match because they've been fantastic. I think they deserve a spot at WrestleMania. They just have no worthy contenders. Why not?
Because there's a lot of matches.
So, you're right. So we talked about earlier, and I had mentioned that I would put Braun Strowman in that match. There's nothing that requires Triple H to only be by himself. Why not have Triple H, Cesaro, and Sheamus versus Braun Strowman and Ronda Rousey? Stack the deck. You've made Braun a monster. So Hunter's like, I'm not fighting you one-on-one. I'm not an idiot. I'm going to bring the tag team champions with me. And then on Raw, you can have repeated segments with the champions trying to find a way to take out Braun. They've already got that history from throwing him in the trash can. So they've got a connection with it.
Can you make Braun the tag team champion?
Well, yes, but he has to be with Daniel Bryan.
No, just flat out Braun. He has one for one arm, one on the other. So one arm has to be on the other side of the ropes at all times.
Oh my gosh.
I would watch this. I would watch this so
Tags
much.
himself in. Yeah.
Gives himself a self high five. No, what he'll do is he'll bring someone from the crowd and say, stand here the entire time. Okay.
He's going to have the Miz girl be there.
Oh my God. You mean Ronda? But yeah, so realistically, don't care about Raw tag titles.
But I mean, that is a good way to put your Raw tag champions on there and two guys who are deserving of a spot without having to defend in a very diluted division.
Well, it depends. Right. Are you putting the club face? Because then the club can come out and then they can be part of the main event as well, and they can be over there.
The club can only win if Finn's in the match. That's it.
Yeah, okay. No. Finn, I would not include the club in this. This is Braun versus the three of them. It puts both Braun and Ronda over as awesome by being able to beat both of them. Okay.
All right. Well, anyway, so let's thank our sponsor, HostGator. Are you a blogger or podcaster, or are you just not happy with your web host? You need to check out HostGator.com. You're going to find web hosting made easy and affordable. HostGator offers unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click script installs with a free stability and hands-on the best control panel out there. Stop by today and try a free demo to see how easy it is. And if you use a special coupon code off the mark, you'll save 25% off your web hosting packages. So what do you gotta lose? Check out HostGator.com and take a bite out of your web hosting costs. And also make sure you check out Section 86's off the mark page and click on the banner at the top to save big on items from WWEshop.com. So, Aaron, you came up with this idea today, and I think it was a great one. And it's about the brand split. The one thing we didn't bring up in our news is that the brand split are ending, which I think is ridiculous. But there are speculation that they may move it to 4-hour shows, which I think is also ridiculous. I could care less at that point, where they pretty much the major rumor is that they would run a 2-hour pre-show, 4 hours of wrestling, and I think that's too much. I think that's why you have different brands, and you don't have to have guys wrestle, and also it's going to hurt. We'll just put it this way. It's going to hurt AJ Styles. It's going to hurt Nakamura. It's going to hurt those guys who wrestle great matches. So, Aaron, let's start off with you. Is this good or bad? And if it's bad, who is it bad for? Is this benefit Raw? Does it benefit SmackDown? Or is it just stupid idea? And if the idea of having like a 6 hours on a Sunday for wrestling, I mean, what's your thoughts if they decide to do that? I'd go freaking nuts if that was the case.
Well, you just asked me, 52 questions. Yeah, I'll go with the first one.
Okay.
I'll take the first one. I'm of two minds. I understand how this is a smart business decision. However, though, as a wrestling fan and somebody who has enjoyed what they had done over the past couple of years, I think that it is a mistake. And the reason behind it is this. When you have the SmackDown pay-per-views, you're able then to, hey, here's our tag team champions. Here's the feud that they're having. Here's our U.S. champion. Here's our world champion. And you're able to go through and say, all right, these are what we are doing for these feuds. And that is what our focus is. We have a couple other random ones here and there, right? And I do understand why, they will talk against that, which will say look, yeah, but we didn't have any other feuds. And that, that's fair. But you're also able to get other people over during that time. So you can have a Ty Dillinger on, which obviously they haven't, but you can have a Baron Corbin on. You can have, some other tag teams on to try to, get things going. And so that's one of the reasons why I am against them ending the brand split. The other reason is because when you think about it, you're going to be having 2 world champions. You might be having 2 tag titles. You might be having 2 women's titles on a show. And as a fan, if you're a casual fan watching this and you're going, wait, I thought I just saw the world champion. Oh, well, that was the SmackDown world champion. This is the Raw world champion. Well, what's the difference? Well, you see, they're completely separate brands. Well, but they're on the same show. How are they completely separate brands? And so that becomes if you're a casual fan and you have to try to wrap your head around all these additional things, and it's well, it also dilutes then the titles. If you're going to have Roman and AJ on the same show and they're both world champions, well, who's the real world champion? And that's when it gets into that discussion. And I don't think that's a discussion that WWE actually wants to have, because then you can lose some viewers because of that. So, like I said, I'm of two minds, but most of me says I'm against it.
It's been a while since I've been able to rant against this person, but I get to do it again, so it's going to be fun. I blame one person for this, and I'm one sole person for the reason that brand split pay-per-views are going away. Not that the brand split is going away. I know we've said that erroneously a few times. It's just that the brand split pay-per-views for now are going away. And the reason is that the worst WWE champion in the history of the world couldn't draw a dime, and he destroyed the SmackDown main event scene, and those pay-per-views repeatedly, especially the main events, were lackluster. They just were. They sucked. Anything that did not involve everything past Elimination Chamber, which Jinder had no part of, was bad. Backlash was bad. Money in the Bank didn't main event with him, and that match sucked. They did some sort of Punjabi prison match at some pay-per-view I didn't pay attention to. It sucked. They did Jinder versus Nakamura at some pay-per-view I didn't give a crap about. It sucked. I think it was Hell in a Cell. So yeah, they did a year of Jinder, and oh, surprise, we're not doing brand split pay-per-view anymore. They didn't draw. Well, yeah, you put a jobber who was trash as the champion, and you wonder why your pay-per-views suck. Had you done AJ Styles all year, you probably would have had much better drawing pay-per-views. So yeah, I can tell you exactly who this is. That idiot Mahal destroyed the brand split pay-per-views. There is a way this could work to Aaron's point of too many titles, which is combine the divisions and split them up. One show gets Raw, the women, one show gets the tag teams. Because there's no point at this point if you're going to have every pay-per-view, it might as well all just be on one show and have each division be deep. So if you're going to do that, maybe this could work. But kind of like Aaron said, you're still going to have 2 world champions. So this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And if you really think about it, of the big 4 pay-per-views, there have only been a good few ones.
Well, yeah, because SmackDowns, they weren't doing that well, but Raw put on the better pay-per-view, which is really weird because you would think it would be the other way around. But SmackDown would put on the great weekly show, but the pay-per-view stunk, and then Raw put on the horrible shows, but then the pay-per-view was decent.
Yeah, no, and that was really the problem, is that SmackDown's pay-per-views were very lackluster. But the big, SummerSlam has not been good the past 2 years. Survivor Series has not been good the past 2 years. The WrestleMania, not been really good the past 2 years. The only one that was any good was the Rumble leading into, for last year. That was a really good pay-per-view. And that was probably the only Big 4 one that you were like, okay, this was really good. And, so now you're going to say, well, we're going to do a bunch of these. Well, these usually suck. Like, I don't know what they're thinking that making, besides the idea, and what he's saying from a business standpoint is, okay, you're going to get to see Roman Reigns every pay-per-view. You're going to get to see all of our top guys every pay-per-view. Well, I remember how that was. It was boring. It was consistently, non-finishes. You're going to get a lot of countouts. You're going to get a lot of feud extenders. You're going to get a lot of things you don't want to see. Cut down the amount of pay-per-views you're doing. Go to 6. You know why TakeOver works? Because it's special. You get it once a quarter, and they build to these takeovers. When you have 12 pay-per-views and you're going to see Roman 12 times, nothing special.
And, you bring up a good point about TakeOver. Yeah, we don't get them a lot. And honestly, I would like to see, if they did it every other month, which is, I think they're almost to that point, I'm okay with that.
Still 4 a year. They do it with the big 4. So one with Rumble, one with Mania, one with SummerSlam, one with Survivor Series.
Well, they did the one with Backlash too last year.
The Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
they did 5.
That was.
Yeah.
Well, they did do 5 last year, didn't they?
Yep.
So I think that's
okay. So it's 5.
I think 5. Maybe if they had I wish they would have they do them on Saturday nights, but I wish that they would still have one special where they turned like a taping where they would show they would do a 2-hour show or even a 1-hour show where they defended 2 titles. I wish they would almost do something like that, but that's fine. I think that's. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the last bad takeover. I mean, that's the sad part. But we can tell you every bad WWE pay-per-view that's happened recently. So, but
the way I can see this being done, there is one way that we can do this. And I was almost afraid Roger was going to take my idea, and it's to actually just have one champion, one women's, one men's. And you can still have the brands be split, but it's defended at every pay-per-view. And it's going to make feuds fresh because you're not going to go see 3 months of Jinder versus somebody or Orton or somebody for 3 more months. Every month it's going to be separate. You can have your Raw month, you can have your SmackDown month, and you can have your shows leading up to it be the number 1 contenderships for whatever brand that is to get to go to the champion. But the champion should jump between shows. And that way you have just one champion. You have one women's champion. You can have a tag team champion. But to keep a championship on each show, you have the U.S. on Raw and you have SmackDown Intercontinental or vice versa. But that way you don't have multiple months in a row running into Randy Orton versus Jinder or those other things. And it keeps it fresh. And I was trying to think of why I like New Japan so much more than I do WWE. And it's because they constantly do not push the same 2 people at you every event that they have. It's always something new. It's always something. It's a constant movement of people going against the champion. It's a constant movement. Yeah, we might get back like Omega versus Okada. We had 3 of those in the span of what? 6 months, 7 months. It was quite a while.
They're all pretty logical, right? Title match,
right.
Rematch, G1 climax. Makes sense.
Right. It all made sense. It was all understandable, and they were all good, and they were all things we wanted to see again. It left us wanting. WWE does not grasp that concept. So if they want to do a pay-per-view brand split, I think it could be a good idea. They're trying to get more people to show up. So maybe if they have AJ Styles on a Raw thing, if you want AJ Styles to bring in people, you have him be your champion, your only one champion, and he can go from side to side to side to side and be that champion. Then, you can have so-and-so win it. But then your Raws and everything and your SmackDowns leading up to these things can be events, people setting up to face the thing. When we are talking about WrestleMania, we are only talking about championship title matches. There's no other feuds going on unless you have a title. And that's the part I hate, is there is no feud going on without a title implication. What happened to the days of Steamboat Savage? Well, that was the Intercontinental title, so that was a title thing. But even then, there were other matches that there was a feud. There was a reason behind it. Right. There was a reason behind it. There was storyline behind it. It was a good match without a title on the line. And I want to get back to those days where something had to happen. Like the matches where you had to wrestle to get into the Rumble. You didn't wrestle for maybe the number 1 spot or the 30th spot just to get into the Rumble or even to get into the Money in the Bank. I miss that kind of setup. And I think that's what it's really missing from WWE. And I think they could do it if they just halved the number of championships that they have.
Well, and to Doug's point, one of the things that happened on SmackDown is we found out it's going to be the Usos versus New Day at their pay-per-view. And that was a feud where it got to the point where we were kind of getting sick of it because there were like 6 matches in the span of like 2 months. There was way too many of them, and they're going back to it. And I'm okay with it because they ended the feud fairly well. So if they do kind of a 1 or potentially 2 off, it could be a good feud. But to that point, it's a Okada Omega. It's 3 times in 7-8 months, right? This is a situation where we consistently have Roman versus the same guy. Jinder and Orton went at it for 4 months or whatever it was. And it was sickening. And they wonder why attendance is down. It's very simple. You look at that match and go, where's the money? Where am I going to get money out of this? Yes, Randy Orton is, he's a household name-ish. And then you have Jinder, who people are like, well, who is this guy? Just a couple months ago, he was getting his butt kicked by everybody and their mother. And now all of a sudden he's your champion. Like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And you fast forward to the way it is right now and you go, okay, well, now it's going to be, maybe Jinder is now back into that picture for some random reason. But if you're going to try to build up new characters, you're not going to be able to. So if they're only focusing on star power, that's all you're ever going to see. You're only going to see, their A+ players. And you're never going to get a C level person over. You think Ty Dillinger is going to get over on his own? No, he's not. Not unless you actually give him something to work with. And they're not going to do that if they have these, brand pay-per-views, these double branded pay-per-views.
Elias is the perfect example of someone who is pretty much given a dead gimmick and made it something good. WWE Walk with Elias. I would have never thought that, but he's done an excellent job. So
are the Fashion Police.
Fashion Police, another great one. And actually, I like the Ascension for what they're doing with them as well, because to me, yeah, they're being comedic, but they could be turned into like an APA-style group, and I wish that they would do that, but they're not. And the thing is, with their own pay-per-views, they would be able to thrive on that. They have, right now, WWE they're supposed to have 5 shared pay-per-views. That's fine. You can have the 5 shared, and then you can have the 7 others. But I think in this case, you can't just have 7. I think you have to add an 8th one, so there would be 13 pay-per-views a year. But then you can go Raw, SmackDown. They have their own special show that they have. I just wish that they would continue with that, but apparently, no. They said now because Roman sucks and, whatever, and Raw is not, has a couple good guys, but they don't know what to do with them. SmackDown is about wrestling, and actually, I would argue that SmackDown has become more like NXT than any other show. And yes, I know Ward is the one doing he's the head writer there, but I prefer watching SmackDown. In fact, I wouldn't even do the fast forward. I like to watch and see what they're doing because it's entertaining, and I think they have the better wrestlers too on SmackDown.
Andy, there's you asked Aaron a question about who does this hurt more. I think this hurts SmackDown significantly more to the point that I would Yeah, like they're obviously going to be treated as the B show in every one of these pay-per-views. Roman's always going to be the main event. Like I had said before, that AJ versus Nakamura is not going to be the classic at Mania by virtue of Vince is not going to allow it. Well, they're not going to get their own SmackDown pay-per-view to do it. So to me, if I'm SmackDown, you can't treat the pay-per-views as the show you're building towards anymore. You're going to have to start building towards SmackDown shows. Like, I don't know if you guys remember a few years ago after 23, Raw had an hour-long Cena versus Shawn Michaels match. If they want to actually give Nakamura and AJ the time to shine, they're going to have to dedicate an hour to SmackDown to let those two go at it, because they're never going to be given that time in the pay-per-view now, because they're not going to be allowed to upstage Roman. Unless Roman is just not on the card, they're not going to be given that shot. So they're going to have to use that TV show now, which is with only 2 hours is going to be tough, because they're already struggling to get everybody on that card now. They're going to really have to start amping it up and being like, we're going to start doing pay-per-view quality matches on the show and treat the pay-per-views as basically fillers for the TV show. They're going to have to do the old Eric Bischoff thing, because they're not going to get the focal point. They're the ones who are going to get bumped, right? Their tag champions got bumped off of SmackDown. Their women's championship match is almost always treated like the second tier one. The United States Championship is sometimes treated as their main event, but it's just not going to get the focus. So they're going to have to go over the TV show and hope that they can just stay over by doing that way, because Raw is going to get the focus, especially with Roman being the crowning golden boy. It's going to be the focal point for quite some time. And then Braun's right in line. So we're talking about, 4 more years potentially of this going on.
And the thing is, I don't mind Braun. Braun, I'm
like
okay
Braun.
with. And I think
But he's on Raw.
But he's on Raw, but like he's been a monster. But I would like to see Braun take on Corbin, but I don't think they're ever going to allow that. But I just, it's going to be tough, because I'm going to just say right now, AJ Styles Nakamura is going to be the curtain jerker on WrestleMania, and I'm going to be furious. And it's going to be match of the night, and every match after that, they're still going to be talking about, man, AJ and Nakamura tore it up.
Well, I already told you that it's going to be the hour 3 main event, Andy. But anyway, just real quick to Roger's point, one of the things that I was thinking about when we're talking about Roman being there and obviously being the title holder, if this is something that was in the cards, why didn't they do this 6 months ago when you had AJ as champion? Or I guess it was Ben Jinder, but maybe like 3 months ago, AJ was champion. Brock's not there. Brock doesn't show up. Brock comes to, 4 or 5 pay-per-views a year, right? So why would you, if you're going to combine them, if AJ is there as the title holder, you then have somebody with the world title. When you're doing this now, like Doug said, you're going to have all these titles, and what do you do with them, unless you're going to combine them?
It depends on what Vince wants to do that day.
I mean, I think that pretty much, not that, Eric Bischoff was famous for admitting, I think, that WCW was writing Nitro sometimes, the day of, if not an hour as the show's going on. I don't think it's that bad in WWE. I think they have a general outline, but I don't think they always have the, longest term planning. And part of that's probably because of Vince, right? He changes his mind, and then they have to switch gears immediately. Like when they decided, we're going to have, what's his name, Tozawa just win the championship out of nowhere. Even though logically he should have won it out of SummerSlam. He decided they want a big moment, or, why would you, they switch titles for no reason a lot of times. Oh, Sasha, you win at SummerSlam, but the next night Alexa wins it back. Well, why? Well, there's no logical reason to do things like that. So, I don't think long-term planning happens. And to Aaron's point, yeah, if you were going to combine pay-per-views when your champion is AJ Styles or even, awful Jinder, you would have at least had a championship on a show. TLC had no world title matches at all. It could have.
Ooh.
You could have put your champion. Yeah, because the main event was that weird 5-on-3 TLC match with Kurt Angle instead of Reigns, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
That's
you could have
right.
mitigated that and had, Styles challenging Jinder for the world championship right there. That could have been it.
Yeah, the other thing is also, I think one thing I think we all can agree that SmackDown, at least the writing is, I think, been on point. At least they have somewhat of direction, but you can tell when someone comes in and says, by the way, we want you to change this, like 2 hours before the show, you can tell. But 205 Live, at least I'll give them some credit. That's actually doing really well. I enjoy watching 205 Live now. Very enjoyable. I like to see where they're going to go, but it's more of the Cruiserweight Classic series. I just hope that the casual fans, the Fairweather fans, are actually still paying attention and seeing what's going on. So anyway, that's pretty much all I think we have to say about this the brand split. I think we're all in agreement that it's going to hurt SmackDown. It's going to benefit Raw because they're going to push AJ Styles and be like, oh, by the way, you're the first match on the card. They're going to do this basically what they did to CM Punk. So, oh well. But anyways, that's all time for this month's show. If you're into the Twitter, you can follow the show at OffTheMark86. I want to thank 86 Productions for hosting and editing the podcast. And I want to thank all of our listeners for taking the time to download and listen to the show. And for Roger Cave, Doug Hahn, and Aaron Hughes, I am Andrew Hughes. And until next time, see you in the ring.